Hey everyone, I'm Flo. Dude is behind the camera.
Yo.
A lot of you have been asking about the ingredients that go into Chinese cooking, so we thought we would share what we think are the must-haves in order to do just that. Growing up, I didn't really learn how to cook from my mom or my grandmothers. I remember watching them cook, and I do remember my grandmother would say things like, oh, you just need a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then she would just show me what she's doing, but I didn't really learn how to cook from her. Most of my cooking style comes from learning how to cook in high school, watching a lot of cooking shows on the cooking channel, and just watching different techniques. So my style of cooking is more westernized and not a lot of Chinese cooking until I guess the last several years when my mom moved in with us, because her palate is more into the Chinese flavors or Asian flavors, and so I've had to learn how to make some things to keep her happy. I'm going to start with the very, very basic items that my mom had in her cupboard. So I have a sauce cupboard as well, but mine's filled with all sorts of sauces because I don't just stick to Chinese cooking. I also do some Japanese, some Korean, some Thai, Vietnamese. So I have a whole slew of different types of sauces in my cupboard, but my mom didn't have very many at all. She just had a very few. So let's start with the sesame oil and soy sauce. And you really can't do Chinese cooking without soy sauce. So this is the brand that she uses and that I also use because I really like it as well. She also had a bottle of cooking wine, some salt, sugar, and cornstarch. The cornstarch is used to make gravies or to thicken sauces, and it's also used to, I think, to tenderize the meat. I'm not actually sure, but whenever we marinate meat, there's always cornstarch that goes into it. She also kept her oyster sauce in the fridge, so that didn't go in the cupboard. I know everything says must keep refrigerated, but really, I only keep this in the refrigerator as well, and I think it's because that's all my mom did as well, and everything else was in the cupboard. So I just keep all my sauces in the cupboard too, and I don't know if that's right or wrong. Now, I would recommend adding just a few more items to that cupboard. One is a dark soy. It just adds a little bit more color, a different flavor, and it's a little bit sweeter than regular soy. Then we have the rice vinegar, and I remember my mom using, and she still does, using just white vinegar, and I find the rice vinegar is not as sharp and vinegary, if that makes sense.
Vinegary is a great word, yeah.
And I also have a bottle of Shaoxing wine, and I prefer using this over the cooking wine, but they also have very different flavors, but just a splash of that makes a difference. And lastly, I would also add a ground white pepper. It adds a little bit of heat because that's what Dude likes, a little bit more heat in most of the Cantonese style cooking. And that's the thing, Cantonese style cooking is more, I don't want to say bland, but it kind of is. It's not like Szechuan cooking that has a lot of spiciness, and it's different from Shanghainese, it's different from Beijing style cooking. So Cantonese style cooking is more
subtle?
Yeah, subtle, mellow, a lot of steaming, not, actually I don't think we deep fry anything. Most things are steamed or stir fried. So Dude's family is also Cantonese, but they grew up in Malaysia. So their kitchen cupboard would be different, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we had a lot of the similar or the same ingredients, but with an expanded list that allowed my mom to cook the Malaysian food. Mm-hmm. So, with the Southeast Asian flavors, I don't know. I forget in terms of the specific sauces and ingredients and spices, but mainly it was the spices that were formed into pastes and whatnot that that comprised those Malaysian or Singaporean recipes.
Here are some of the fresh ingredients that you might want to have on hand to enhance the flavor of Chinese cooking as well. So let's start with the green onions. Now these are not the best green onions. I actually wouldn't prefer these, but this is what was in the store. These are more mature than what I would like to see. The ones that are less mature, they're not as bulbous, they're not as big, and when they're more tender, their flavor is not so intense either. So I find like the more mature green onions will give a stronger onion flavor, and sometimes that's not what I'm looking for. I just want something more subtle. We also cook with a lot of onion, and it gives a different onion flavor than green onion. And so we will use both types of onion in Chinese cooking. We also use garlic, but not very much garlic. Like there are some cultures that use like lots and lots of garlic. We're not one of them. Often we would, well, I don't know if it's we or just my mom, but my mom will just take a clove and just smash it and then throw that in the oil to cook, just to flavor the oil. So you don't get bits of garlic in our food. It was always, you know what, now a memory just came up. It was always these huge chunks of garlic that she would just throw into the dish whole, and then we would accidentally chomp on one and spit it out immediately, like, what is that? And it's because mom always just throws the garlic in with the rest of the dish and not like toss it out. So if it was me, I would flavor my oil with the piece of garlic and then I would just toss it out, which dude probably would be upset with if he knew.
I think that's one of those not only regional differences. Our families may come from the same province, the Guangdong province, but regionally or culturally, we had adapted to Malaysian regional differences where we put in a lot of garlic in the same stir-fried vegetables. Like say if it's gailan or yao choy, we would put in a ton of garlic, minced garlic.
You guys would mince your garlic and we would just want some garlic flavor. I remember going to Malaysia with Dude's family, and whenever we ate at a restaurant, everyone got a little dish of chili and a little dish of garlic to go with their meal.
That's standard fare.
Yeah. Another essential item is ginger. My mom also, she would just slice large pieces of ginger and again infuse the oil with the flavors. But again, she would leave them in our dishes so that we would accidentally bite into them and get like these really strong flavors in our mouths that we weren't used to and spit it out. And every now and then she would also slice them up into like matchsticks. And that would usually go on steamed fish or a little bit on steamed pork patty. But generally, she would just slice it in slices and just flavor the oil with it. But with ginger, when you're choosing ginger in the store, make sure that the skin is dry, that the skin is not wrinkly. Like this one is okay. It's starting to wrinkle, which means we probably has been sitting on my shelf for a little bit now. It's not as fresh as it could be when you buy it in the store. So you want the skin to be taut and smooth and not wrinkled, and you don't want to see any sprouts growing because that means it's, you could, if you do get sprouts, you could plant them in the ground and like grow your own ginger, but then the ginger will be very strong in flavor, like extra spicy. But yeah. Ginger is really also hard to measure unless I weigh it. That's why I always say it's like a giant swollen thumb size. But I realize now that this is about 3 ounces. I'm just showing you all the ingredients that I grew up with and use for our style of Cantonese cooking. But in China, it's such a huge country with lots of regional differences. There are so many different recipes out there, and every region will have their version of essentially the same dish. So if you have some of these ingredients on hand to do a stir fry, to marinate meat, you'll be well on your way to tasting some good Cantonese style cooking. Thought I would share some more comments that I received recently. This one is from Wayne Rope. I like your videos very much. However, you are right that need knife skills class. That probably I need knife skills class. You are a good cook. Well, I appreciate that, Wayne, that you think I'm a good cook despite my knife skills. But yes, I do need a knife skills class.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Thanks, dude. This next one is from Noah Count. Noah always makes me laugh with his comments. Determining what is most valuable in the Lum family's kitchen is an absolute no-brainer. The answer is flow. Thank you very much. P.S. When are you going to post a video on Dude Melda's shoe collection?
Are you challenging me, Noah? Because I can throw down. Because shoes spark joy.
Here's a nice one from Jessica Ledbetter. As always, I love your videos, not only super educational, but fun. Just joined up on your Patreon to keep that wonderful content coming. Thank you so much. No, thank you so much, Jessica. We really appreciate your support because every bit counts. This next one comes from Hank Sui. I know I can look it up, but I'd rather hear it from an authoritative source. What's Canadian bacon called in Canada? Is it just called ham, and the ham from the US is called American ham? Bacon is bacon everywhere, it seems. As the kids would say, so meta. Well, Hank, Canadian bacon in Canada is also called Canadian bacon, just like Canada geese are called Canada geese, even if they show up in the US.